a lot of wind, and I don't know, it was scary. Like, I seen it, and I seen things flying in the air, and I thought it was birds, but it was debris and stuff from the, yeah, everything happened really, really quick, and we were just stopping in the road, and it was just really scary. It was big.
That's audio from a woman just after she survived yesterday's tornado. Reporter Jordan Abbey arrived on the scene in Newton County at the same time as emergency personnel, and he talked to several people even as they were being treated by paramedics. Reporter Jordan Abbey joins us live in our Joplin newsroom now. Jordan, it can be tough asking questions of someone who's just experienced a traumatic time. Talk to us about that from your perspective of a reporter being on the scene early, right after the tornado struck.
Lisa, I arrived on the scene just before 7, maybe a little bit after 7, and if you go back to that phone interview, you'll see that I quite frequently refer to the scene as calm yet chaotic. And I know that can be confusing to describe, but that's how it really was. On the one hand, you had people, volunteers in that area and rescue workers just arriving on the scene, going down the street, yelling. There were no buildings left, so yelling, are there any survivors? Are you okay? They were also using chainsaws to cut trees. You can see cars in the middle of the road there. And then on the other hand, you had survivors of the tornado that had just come out from where they were seeking shelter, and they were in shock. There's no other word to describe it. They were in true shock at that time. Lisa, you and I were talking about this earlier. Just before I did that phoner, a gentleman came up to me, and he was very upset with me. He was cursing at me. He was saying, turn off your camera and help this dying woman. And I told you then, Lisa, I will never forget what he said, and I'll never forget what I saw. Because I wanted to help that woman. I literally stopped in my tracks, and I wanted to help that woman, but I couldn't. My objective then is the same as it's now. I was in the area earlier today, and it's the same as it is now. To document what's going on.
Right.
To relay the situation from the officials to our viewers, and to tell the stories of the survivors and, unfortunately, of those who perished from this disaster as well.
And Jordan, it is important to note that you are not a trained medical official, and there were medical officials there helping. And the people who talked to us were willing participants. They were willing to talk to you. We didn't,
Right.
approach them and attack them. So the volunteer was just kind of in a panic mode. Now,
Lisa, if I can interrupt you too,
yeah.
It's something I forgot to tell you earlier. The lady that I interviewed on the phone that you just shared the bite from, after I did that phoner, she was taking off her jacket a little bit. She was pregnant. I don't know how far along she was. I didn't ask her. She had to go and seek help, but she was pregnant. And she and her boyfriend sought shelter in a ditch across from the roadway, and her boyfriend was telling me that when he was covering her, and he was covering 2 lives, not just 1.
Yeah, it's very scary. Jared, many people are mesmerized by tornadoes, and it is a major disaster to cover. Did you feel that way, and do you feel a little bit differently now after seeing the results of the storm?
Lisa, you and I were talking about this again earlier. This month is my 1-year anniversary at KOAM, and if I can just share a little bit of background information. When I flew into the Joplin airport, Christy, our news director, was driving me from the Joplin airport to our main station in Pittsburgh, and we were talking about tornadoes, and I glanced over at her and I said, where's Tornado Alley? I've heard some stuff about Tornado Alley. Where is it? And she looked at me and she says, you're in it, buddy. And just last week, I was talking to our producer of this newscast, Eric Holcomb, and I said, I want to see a tornado. I want to see some severe weather.
And now?
I regret that. Based on what I've seen, I didn't see the tornado, but I saw what it did. When you see people shaking because out of true fear of what they've been through, when you see a man crying his heart out because his wife just died from the tornado, and when I was on the phone again last night, I was right next to a pile of bodies, and they were piling up as I was talking. It's not worth it.
Right.
It's not ever worth it.
A very traumatic event, and we hope you can recover yourself, Jordan, and thank you for the work you've done. All right, thank you, Jordan Abbey. Coming up tonight at 10, Missouri's governor calls in the cavalry. Troops from the National Guard help out in Newton County with security and cleanup. If you're working or live in the tornado-damaged area, you should get a tetanus shot. We'll tell you where you can get one, and residents who lived through the destruction are telling their stories. Join us for those stories and more. Continuing coverage tonight at 10. We're here now to wrap things up with meteorologist Doug Hetty and meteorologist Jeff Cornish. Bravo, wonderful work yesterday. I know we alerted a lot of people to the path of the storms. you had told us earlier it was a wedge tornado. I'd like to reiterate that because a lot of people, we always hear about tornadoes dancing across the area, up and down. This was not the case with the storm.
No, a lot of our weaker tornadoes, which most of our tornadoes are fairly weak, they just kind of hit the ground, dance a little bit, go up. These big tornadoes, these are the ones that are shaped like this. They stick on the ground. They have so much strength, they just plow right through. And they'll be on the, I mean, same situation with May 4th of 03, on the ground for hours at a time. So not extremely typical in most of our tornadoes, but we do get them around here every few years.
And we hate the fact that lives were lost, but it did cover a lot of rural territory. You did say it went down into kind of a watery area, and there were some rural areas covered. Maybe in some ways that was a blessing that it didn't go through even more populated areas as well, because it's had a pretty wide stretch. Do we know how wide this tornado was across and the mileage it covered?
They're still doing some damage assessments. The National Weather Service has a team that's going to be looking into it over the next couple of days. But they've said that at least half of a mile to possibly a little bit more than half of a mile wide when I spoke with them earlier on the phone. Looking
at the aerial footage, yeah, definitely looked like a half-mile wide, and this is at the beginning of the tornado, so it's still in its premature stages.
And visible miles away.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was shot near Oklahoma and Chautauqua and quite far away.
Just another thought. It's easier to trace. I've never really chased tornadoes, but what I hear is that it's much easier to chase in southeast Kansas than it is down in Newton County. But storm chasers had a very good beat on this storm, even as it traveled through the difficult terrain of Newton County with the trees and the twisty turns and the winding roads. So for them to have such a good beat on that on that tornado for such a long track, it must have been very, very, very large, even through western Newton County.
Many sought shelter, but it was difficult to get out of its way. We do want to reiterate there were at least 20 people killed, 12 in Newton County, 1 in Berry County, 1 in Jasper County, and 6 in Pitcher, Oklahoma. Certainly, we think back on those who passed away, and we want to remember them and those who are still working diligently in the recovery effort to help those. And we know we will have continuing coverage on this as well.
Continuing through the week.
Do we think rating EF?
Probably 4 to 5. Yeah, definitely big. Ever since I've been here, we've had just terrible weather from the May 4 tornadoes and snowstorms and ice storms and floods. So maybe I just need to leave. Maybe that would be the best.
I don't think so.
I don't think our viewers want that.
I don't think so. We need your help to spot these storms, and we thank you both very much. We want to say goodnight tonight with some more images from the storm damage, and those out working to assess that damage and clean up. And we wish all well on this Mother's Day and hope the recovery effort goes well. Good night. We'll see you back here at 10.